Okay, class, today's topic is on inequalities in two triangles, and you're going to learn to compare a pair of sides between two triangles when the remaining pairs of sides are congruent. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with the theorem, and that's the hinge theorem. Hinge theorem is telling us that if you have two sides of one triangle that are exactly the same as the two sides of a second triangle, and the angle opposite the third side is larger, then that means that third side is also longer. Okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at an example so that we can further understand this hinge theorem. Okay, so here's an example. Here we've got two triangles. Okay, we've got triangle JKL, and we also have triangle JKM. And side JK in this triangle is the same length as side JK in this other triangle. And we know that because of this single hash mark. Okay? And then the second side of this triangle, JL, is also the same length as JM. And we know that because we're told with these two hash marks that they are the same. Okay? Now, what's different here is that angle KJL is 50 degrees, whereas angle KJM is 80 degrees, okay? And this angle is larger, which means this mouth, I'm going to just call this a mouth, is open wider. And when it's open wider, both of these sides move further apart than this triangle. And when they're further apart, it means that this length is longer, okay? So what we're seeing is that segment KM is greater than segment KL, okay? And we know that also because this angle is larger than this angle, and this angle is opposite this side, KM, and so therefore KM is going to be larger than KL. All right, now let's move on to the converse of the hinge theorem. Okay, converse of the hinge theorem states that if two sides of one triangle are congruent to two sides of another triangle, and the third sides are not congruent, meaning they're not the same, then the larger included angle is opposite the longer side, the longer third side. Okay, so in this converse theorem, what this is basically saying is we have two triangles, two of the sides are identical. The third side of one triangle is larger than the other, and so the angle opposite the longer side is going to be the larger angle between the two triangles. Okay, so let's take a look at an example to demonstrate this converse hinge theorem. Okay, so here we've got a bunch of things going on, but let's focus in on these two triangles first. Triangle CDE and triangle EFG, okay? Now, keeping in mind that we're looking for all possible values of x, okay? Well, where is x here? X is part of this angle, okay? So we need to figure out the relationship of this angle versus this angle versus this angle. But let's focus on just these two for the first step, okay? We know in this triangle that side CE is the same as side EG, okay? We know that because of the single hash mark. And likewise, side DE is the same as side EF because it's double hash mark, okay? So the included angle here, okay, I'm going to call this angle CED, is opposite side 18, okay? We're going to keep that in mind. And then angle GEF, which is 36 degrees, is opposite side 14, okay? Now, compare this length and this length. We would say that this length is smaller than this length, right? This length is smaller than this length. And if this length is smaller, that means this angle, which is opposite this length, is also smaller than this angle, which is opposite that length. Okay, well, this length is represented by 2x minus 4. Okay, so we're going to say 2x minus 4. And we know that this angle, okay, is going to be greater than this angle, or this 36 is going to be less than that, okay? So then we can establish that relationship by saying 2x minus 4 is greater than 36 degrees, okay? Okay, all right, so now we've got that part. Now let's take a look at this relationship between this triangle and this triangle, okay? Let's do the same thing. We know that side CE is the same as side AC, okay, because of the single hash mark, and side BC has this double hash mark, and it's going to be the same as side DE, all right? So we've got two triangles, this triangle, this triangle. We've got two sides that are congruent, okay, to each other. So we know that we're dealing with this included angle, okay? And the question is, which angle is larger? Is it this angle, 60, or this angle, which is 2x minus 4? Well, to determine that, we were going to look at the side opposite the angle, which is here, okay? We know that that's 18, and the side opposite this angle is 21. Well, we know that 21 is larger than 18, which means this angle is going to be larger than that, okay? So then we would say that this angle, 2x minus 4 is less than 60 degrees, all right? So now that we've developed that relationship, we can now determine all of the possible values for x. And we do that by solving for x. We've got two inequalities here, so we're going to solve them separately. So on the left side, we have, let me draw that again. We've got 36 is less than 2x minus 4, okay? And if we solve for x here, what we're going to do is move this negative 4 over to the other side, and we could do that by adding 4 to both sides. And in doing so, these cancel out, and this becomes 40, and that's less than 2x. Okay, and then the last step is we want to get rid of this 2. Okay, basically by getting rid of this 2, we're making it 1. And to do that, we're going to divide both sides by 2. And the result is 20 is going to be less than x. Okay, so we know just from this operation that x is going to be larger than 20. Okay, but we also have this side of the inequality that we need to resolve. Okay, so this becomes 2x minus 4 is less than 60. You notice how all I did was I wrote this part of the inequality, and we solve for x. First, we're going to move or get rid of this negative 4. We want to make it 0, and to do that, we're going to add 4 to that side. And whatever we do to the left side, we have to do to the right side. Okay, so we're going to add 4 to both sides. And when we do, these cancel out, and we get 2x is less than 64. And then finally, we want to get rid of this 2 and make it 1. We want x by itself, so we do that by dividing 2 on both sides. And we find that x is less than 32. Okay, so then we go ahead and put both of these together. X is greater than 20, and it needs to be less than 32. Okay, so our answer is going to be, let's bring these together. X is greater than 20, and it's going to be less than 32. Okay, so anything between 20 and 32, greater than 20, less than 32, will make this scenario true. All right? Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to example 3. Here we're going to write an inequality describing the range of x. So here we've got two different triangles going on, okay? And we see that this side, KE, is the same as side QR because of the single hash mark. And side EF is also the same as side RS, okay, because of this double hash mark. All right, so we've got this included angle, 75 and 60. We know that 75 is larger than 60, and so the side opposite 75 will also be larger than the side opposite 60. So let's go ahead and write that relationship. We're going to say that 2x plus 3 we know is greater than 15, and then we go ahead and solve for x. So the first thing we're going to do is subtract 3 from both sides. And in doing so, we're left with 2x is greater than 12, right? These cancel out. And then the last step is divide both sides by 2. And when we do, these cancel out, and now we're just left with x, and x is greater than 6. So this inequality describes the range of x for this scenario. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at this last example, okay? So a lot of things are going on. We want to know ultimately which of these 4 apply. Now it says to select all that apply, and that usually implies that there's more than one answer, okay? So let's take a look at this diagram. We've got 3 different triangles going on. We've got an x here, we've got y's here, and so we're going to need to relate these x's together, okay? So let's take a look. We're going to compare this triangle with this triangle because both of these angles are involved, and so we're going to need to involve both of those triangles. So both of those triangles share this side, and we know that this side of the triangle and this side are the same, and so we're going to be dealing with the angles in between those sides. And the question we want to ask is, what is the relationship between this angle, which is 2x minus 6, and this angle, which is x plus 12? Well, if you take a look, you see how this segment here is kind of slanted towards the right, which means that this side is going to be longer than that side. And since this side is longer than that side, that means this angle is going to be longer or larger than this angle. Okay, so let's go ahead and establish that. We could say that 2x minus 6 is going to be greater than x plus 12. Now we can go ahead and solve for x. And the first thing we're going to do is subtract x from both sides. And when we do, these x's cancel out, and we're left with x minus 6 is greater than 12. Okay, now we want to move this negative 6 out of this side and move it to this side, and we can do that by adding 6 to both sides. The result is that the negative 6 canceled out, and now we find that x is greater than 18. All right? Okay, so in looking at these choices, we see that x is greater than 18. So we can go ahead and select that. X is greater than 18. All right, so that's one conclusion. Now let's take a look at the y's, okay? The y's. This angle is related to this triangle, and this angle is related to this triangle. So we're going to compare these two, all right? So we're told that this side of the triangle is the same as this side, and this side of the triangle is the same as this side because of this 12, okay? So then the included angle that we're dealing with is this angle and this angle. And the question is, what is the relationship between this angle and that angle? We established earlier that this side, okay, is larger than this side, okay? And so we would say then that this side is larger than this side, okay? And since this side is larger than this side, then the side opposite, or the angle opposite this side would be this angle, 3y minus 8, and that is larger than this angle, which is opposite this side. And so we would say then that 3y minus 8 is greater than y. All right, so let's go ahead and solve for y. We're going to subtract y from both sides because we want all the y's on one side of the equation. And when we do, these cancel out, and we're left with 2y minus 8 is greater than 0, right? Because y minus y disappears, and so we have nothing on that side, so we have to represent it with a 0. Then we're going to move this negative 8 to this side of the equation, and we do that by adding 8 to both sides. The result is these cancel out, and we get 2y is greater than 8. Okay? And then lastly, we're going to isolate this y by dividing 2 on both sides. And when we do, we see that y is greater than 4. All right? And looking at the multiple choice here, we see that y is also greater than 4 here, so we're going to go ahead and select letter D. All right, so those are the two conclusions that we can make from this problem. Hopefully this made sense. If you have any questions or something wasn't clear, please go back to the beginning of the recording and listen to it again. Thank you.